Tony, Sam, Sonny, and Lucky have been old friends sharing the mornings for children of generations. Today, PopCon will look at 24 limited-run cereal crossovers from the 1980s. New intellectual properties making a splash in cartoons, movies, and merchandise tried to package their magic in cereal boxes, hoping to carve out a niche in the mass breakfast market along with old familiar faces. This is PopCon. I'm Victor, your Generation 1 host, and I was there. Sometimes these tried and true brands had to share shelf space with some new upstarts that really amounted to nothing more than a flash in the pan. None of them could outlast the time-tested breakfast cereals we still see today. Who were they? Let's get it on. The gimmick is practically unheard of today, but a staple of classic 80s marketing. Here are the best who attempted a breakfast aisle takeover, but just couldn't find lasting success. An action star of A-Team and Rocky III, Mr. T's popularity screamed cereal, aimed at kids with the release of his cartoon a year earlier, where he is a leader of a group of gymnastics crime fighters. His cereal was destined for greatness. Pop culture has had a field day with this Quaker Captain Crunch copycat from 1984, as it was even proudly featured in the classic Pee-wee's Big Adventure and the 80s inspired Stranger Things.
We're lost.
C-3POs. Now, why haven't these lasted as long as Star Wars? Hard to say, but because they came out 1 year after Return of the Jedi and 1 year before the animated series Droids, no content, no cereal. Or perhaps, despite being called C-3POs, it instead features figure 8 shapes, and Kellogg's could think of nothing better to represent our two mechanical friends with a flavor ripping off alphabets. Pac-Man. Why not? Pac-Man was the first true tie-in franchise to the 80s created after the barriers were destroyed for making cartoons that were simply 30-minute commercials for the brand or product. Pac-Man was huge, and this breakfast option lasted longer than most. In 1983, you could eat Power Pellets with old Pac-Man and chase the marshmallow ghosts Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde. Ranging from the cute cartoony commercials to the very 80s music Kid Band, this cereal had some traction, even diversifying with Miss Pac-Man marshmallows, introduced by a very young Christian Bale. E.T. by General Mills. Yes, the franchises on this list are not just relegated to cartoons as you see. TV, cartoon stars, video games, and movies will all hit the list. E.T. was a hit, and these little E's and the little T's seem to have everything, even promising floating cartons of milk. The first peanut butter and chocolate cereal, long before Reese's Puffs, which is ironic since Reese's were integral in the E.T. movie, you'd think it would have cornered the market. But no matter how much puppy dog eyes as E.T. could sport, it wasn't enough to keep this on the shelf after his year-long initial rage of 1982. When you see cereal called Cabbage Patch Kids, you'd assume it would taste like cabbage, unless you were hoping it would taste like newborn babies. Cabbage Patch Kids were the bomb in 1983, and by 1986 or so, they had bombed. In the short time, they conquered everything. So why not this complete breakfast? Amazingly, this 1985 Ralston selection with various covers featuring active little characters had the lowest sugar content at 3 grams and had no artificial flavors. But I guess you'd expect that if you were grown in a garden. The cereal was on brand, I'll give it that. The faces of these cereal were just as fugly as the dolls themselves. If there was a character to translate to cereal, none were more fitting than this little greeting card wonder. Strawberry Shortcake cereal by General Mills in 1981 was as saccharine-filled as the character herself, but who doesn't want artificially strawberry-flavored Morning Crunch? Or the cutesy version of Frankenberry, although you can't say that Frankenberry isn't cute. She is lucky enough to have a spin-off cereal on the list. Not a sequel, but a spin-off, so stay tuned for that. Thinking of all her fruit-smelling friends, I would have to admit that most of them would sound good in a breakfast cereal, except maybe the peculiar Purple Pie Man. What is so peculiar? What could that purple flavor be? What do you guys think? Oh, Smurf me. Papa Smurf and the gang juiced their berries for a little money-making scheme in the breakfast industry. What a Smurf-tastic idea. These little blue guys were all the rage, and anything they touched turned into cash. So why not Smurfin' cereal? And it was popular enough for a rebrand. The sweetened corn, oat, and wheat didn't know what it was. So by adding marshmallows, Post updated it to magic berries for a little more longevity. Donkey Kong. Ralston was added again with another video game cereal, and it won't be the last. This Captain Crunch knockoff just formed the bits into tiny little barrels for this 1982 entry. Good thing you just had to eat them and not jump over them, but I assure you, they ripped up the roof of your mouth just like good old Captain Crunch. Who you gonna buy? Ghostbusters, of course. Well, the longest standing on the list so far. Ghostbusters kept reinventing itself and worked from 1985 to 1990. At first, they steered clear from the gross-out turn they could have took with Slimer and instead went with a fruit-flavored O's with ghost marshmallows. The low-voice singing ghost mascot and the spectral appearance made the cereal cool, and General Mills kept it evolving. First into the real Ghostbusters to tie into the cartoon, Ghostbusters 2 for the sequel movie, and finally, yes, turning your milk green, and probably your poop too, Slimer and the real Ghostbusters put the nail in the breakfast coffin. Gremlins. Ralston had its little claws in everything, and this time it was another Captain Crunch copy, but just slap Gizmo on the cover, and the Gremlins tie-in was the next best thing. Only available in 1984, during the year of the film's release, the cereal was shaped like little, Gremlins? At least I think they were supposed to be, or maybe a close approximation. Anyway, lucky for us, you could eat these little critters after midnight. G.I. Joe, the only top 80s cartoon to get a cereal tie-in. G.I. Joe's action stars were based on the real American hero version of our, well, heroes, and debuted along with the original cartoon. With various box covers featuring Duke and Shipwreck and Gung Ho, the commercial is famous for being the only time the character Starduster appeared in animated form. He was never in the cartoon, perhaps because his star-shaped cereal was the most boring, as being just like plain old Lucky Charms, like without the marshmallows. Rainbow Bright. In 1985, Ralston grabbed another franchise in time for its film release and debuted an unremarkable breakfast cereal described as simply sweetened cereal. How ambiguous is that? With so many sweet characters, I think Rainbow takes the cake and eats it too in what amounts to diabetes in a colorful package.
No worked out breakfast for us. Fruit flavors, colorful bites, Rainbow Bright.
Craving a second bowl yet? You got it. But before that, show me a little love and click the like. And while you're there, click subscribe too. I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's talk more cereal. Time to step out of the arcade and into the fashion world. Ralston used Dance Club and Beach Blast Barbie to capitalize on Mattel's best-selling product. The B-shapes were accompanied with all of your typical gender norm items for girls in yellow and pink, and surprisingly, less sugar than most cereals at the time, and no artificial flavors. I guess Barbie didn't want you to go and purge her own cereal after eating. Some boxes even became a vanity for everyone's favorite teenage model. And winning Best Promotion? This is the only cereal to offer a giveaway for a real diamond worth $4,000. Barbie is living the dream. Excellent! That was the name of the Bill and Ted cereal to promote their new cartoon. Sadly, it only lasted 21 episodes, so the cereal was a short-lived 1990 creation and near the end of this cereal crossover craze. Ralston was on a roll, and we will give them props for not only being a cinnamon-flavored cereal, but marshmallow shaped like music notes, a first. Donkey Kong Jr. This is not a sequel, it's a spin-off cereal because it stands on its own. Ralston was at it again with the very artificial fruit flavors of yellow bananas and red berries. At least it wasn't another Captain Crunch rebrand. Got another spin-off for you with Orange Blossom. And like most of the other denizens of Strawberry Land, who wouldn't enjoy the burst of orange in your breakfast bite? There were few simply orange-flavored cereals at the time, and with all the Strawberry Shortcake characters out there since 1979, General Mills was bold to simply choose her from the original cast. But she did add a touch of diversity that was severely lacking. Nerds? Yes, this cereal is based on a popular candy. From you-know-who, right? Willy Wonka, of course. However, it was Ralston, no surprise at this point, who marketed the popular pairing of two fruit flavors and gave some re-eatability with these treats. Two flavors you could mix in one bowl, how you saw fit. You could measure just how much berry, just how much orange, or just how much grape you wanted to add to your bowl. Was an ingenious idea. The boxes also had some collectability factor, having 2 bags of different cereals inside each. Ever since the earliest days of kids' breakfast cereal, eating them as candy was a common marketing, so having this cereal based on a candy seemed like it came full circle and right up the 80s alley. Crunchy Stars. Finally, a new intellectual property, the Muppets, specifically the Swedish Chef, one of my favorites. And in 1988, he is baking in the Muppet Test Kitchen and creates Post's Crunchy Stars, a play on the character's barely accurate accent. Like most Muppet outings, the character is on brand, and with those human hands and Muppet face, It's just as surreal to look at as each commercial shows the Cinnamon Toast cereal getting the best of the chef and covering the Muppet Test Kitchen. The box said, "No batteries required. Truly cinnamony, a truly wholesome cereal in a ridiculous box." Back to the arcade, and it's Nintendo for breakfast. Gamers know no time of day, and in 1988, a box very much like the Nerd cereal invited you to mix and match your fruit-flavored Mario's, Mushrooms, and Goombas from Super Mario Bros. And your berry-flavored Link's Hearts and Shields from The Legend of Zelda. Another cereal masterpiece by Ralston. Batman and Batman Returns. Well, why not? Let's hit the movies. Ralston did with the 1989 tie-in to the Tim Burton film. Yes, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson could live out their rivalry over a box of what was described as a honey nut flavor, a smashing taste that is most reported to just be another Captain Crunch copy. Is it just me, or is Captain Crunch a pretty nondescript every cereal kind of flavor? Yes, there was also a sequel in 1992 for Batman Returns, but that's getting just a little too far out of the 80s. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though, in 1987, TMNT hit the small screen, and these comic upstarts haven't made an exit, except when it comes to breakfast, where their 1989 crunchy, sweetened Ninja Nets with Ninja Turtle marshmallows debuted. These Chex Nets were pretty generic until the pizza-shaped marshmallows were later added. And can we guess the producers of this surprising addiction? Ralston, of course. WWE Superstars! You know this is mostly the 80s, but there is absolutely some bleed over, like when Ralston licensed the WWF, or World Wrestling Federation, for their Hint of Vanilla cereal with boxes featuring some of the most famous wrestlers on the circuit in 1991, including, of course, Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior, and Road Warriors Animal and Hawk. Introducing Urkel O's. Urkel Family Matters. This might be our only 80s sitcom on the list, and also comes out in 1991, so just out of that 80s range. The strawberry and banana flavored cereal consisted of yellow and red loop pieces. A pre-sale promotional box of the cereal referred to the cereal as a fun, circle-shaped product. Boy, that really gets my attention. Sounds to me like Ralston retired Donkey Kong Jr. and just rebranded for this infamously insane 80s admission. Wait, hold on. Where is He-Man Crunch? Where is Lion O's? More ridiculous, where's Cobra Kai cereal? You know, Ralston did test out a Transformers cereal that transformed your milk into chocolate. Not a new concept, but it just didn't go anywhere, so all that we're left with is this test box. You know, there has always been cross-promotion on cereal, like the Doctor Who on the Sugar Smacks. But besides a few feeble attempts from the Disney Channel movies with Kellogg, and even one for Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Crystal Skull, the only comparable to this list of 80-licious cereal crossovers in the modern time was the Funko Cereals you see pop up at specialty pop culture stores for a limited time, and just a fun way to get a minifigure. They are constantly changing, and they make no attempt to fool themselves that their offering into the cereal world is going to stick, as they don't even bother to share space with our old friends on the breakfast aisle in your nearest grocer. Well, this wraps up my third show in my Cereals Made Famous in the 80s series. Please check out the other two on Popcorn with a bunch of other great content. I would appreciate it, and I really love that you stopped by. Please add in the comments, do you have memories of, or what was your favorite cereal from this list? Thanks again, and until next time.